Hey guys, I hope you're all doing great and let's get started. Last week I did a video about the best budget phones. So this week, let's step the game up. This will be a video of the best 5 flagship phones right now available in the market. At 5, we have the OnePlus 6T. Don't get me wrong here, this phone is absolutely brilliant. This can even compete with the flagship phones. So this phone will be the best buy for the buck you can ever get. At this price range, this is the best phone you can get. This phone is rocking a 6.41 inch 1080p display with Android 9.0 built in with it, with 8GB of RAM and Snapdragon 845. It has a 3700 mAh battery and has a 20 megapixel primary camera at the rear, and to support that we have a 16 megapixel camera for depth sensing. This is the cheapest flagship phone experience you can ever get. The near stock Android experience, which is the near stock Android experience, and the fast Android updates and everything make it the best phone available right now in the market. At number 4, we have the iPhone XS. As far as I know, there is no best phone overall in general, but there is always a best phone for every individual based on what he or she wants to do with it. So, having said that, at 4 we have the iPhone XS. This is the latest iPhone to come out this year. This has a 5.8 inch 4K display with a 12 megapixel primary camera on the rear, and it has a 4GB RAM with the Apple A12 Bionic chip, which is the fastest and the most powerful chip you can get on a handheld computing device right now. And it has a 2658 mAh battery, and in India this costs around a lakh, even more maybe, based on the specs you want. This phone has all the cool Apple features such as Dolby Vision, white color display, 3D touch display and true tone display, and has an astonishing refresh rate of 120Hz, which is very rare to see in a phone. The camera in this phone has the best dynamic range in any smartphone by far, and it takes the best videos in any smartphone. If you are a guy who wants to vlog or shoots a lot of videos, this phone is for you. But however, the pictures are actually a little toned down and the temperature seems to be a little raised all the time. I put this at 4 because of the cost. It's really expensive and not all of us can afford this. At number 3, we have another flagship phone from a very prominent company. This will be the Google Pixel 3 XL. This phone has a really ugly notch, but let's not get into that and discuss about the specs. This phone looks really sleek and has a 6.3 inch 4K display again, and it has a 12 megapixel camera, which is the best camera in smartphone by far. It takes the best pictures in any smartphone, but it's not the same with the videos. Videos are really bad in this phone, especially because of the mic, and it does not have as good as video stabilization as in the Samsung Galaxy Note 9 or the iPhone XS or XS Max. This has a 4GB RAM and the Snapdragon 845 processor, and has a 3430 mAh battery. The Google Pixel 3 is not that much different at all. The difference is that it just has a smaller screen and a smaller battery, but it does not have a dynamic range that is as good as the Apple XS. This phone is currently priced at 79,000 rupees in India. At number 2, we have the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. This phone was actually ranked at number 2 just because of the hardware it packs in such small phone. Yeah, it is small when you compare it with all the hardware it has. It still keeps the headphone jack, and it has a stylus with many new controls, and it acts as a Bluetooth remote sensor, maybe, if you are into that stuff. This phone has the best display in any smartphone because Samsung is kind of the king in that area. It has an impressive 4000 mAh battery and has an 8 GB RAM, and it has the Snapdragon 845, the flagship processor. And this phone runs Android 8.1 and is updatable for Android 9. And we can't speak about this phone without speaking about the liquid cooling system. Yeah, this has a liquid cooling system which is pretty effective, if you ask me. After a really long time of playing Fortnite on this phone, the phone was barely warm, and I think it works pretty good. This is a performance beast. This need more power in your computing device. This is a go-to for you, and there's an option to bump up the specs as high as 512 gigs of memory. That's like half a terabyte of memory in your phone. That's next level stuff right there. And if you edit a lot of videos or stuff like that, this phone is free. And at number 1, we have the Huawei Mate 20 Pro. This phone came in a shock to most people. Hardware wise speaking, is clearly inspired by the Samsung Edge bent display model, because it kind of has the curved edges, and it has a really unique camera setup on the rear. It has a triple camera setup which has a 40 megapixel camera for wide shots, and a 20 megapixel f2.2 camera for ultra wide shots, and an 8 megapixel camera for telephoto and optical zoom. This phone has a whopping 4200 mAh battery, and it has an aggressive battery optimization system, which is like, for some people this may be almost a 2-day phone. And let's get real, guys, the reverse charging is a gimmick. It doesn't charge that fast. It can only be used to charge smaller accessories like your smartwatch or smart bands or something, which is wireless charging compatible. And the screen is pretty good. The camera is actually a top notch, and the night sight is actually the second best low light software that is out there. The first being the Pixel's night sight, which is otherworldly. This phone has its own Kirin 980 processor. They don't use Snapdragon, they have their own Chinese processor. At the end of the day, this phone was not as highly priced as the other flagship. It's actually worth every penny you pay.